On October 9, 2012, a lone gunman boarded a bus in Pakistan and shot Malala Yousafzai in the head because she opposed Taliban law which forbids that girls may attend school. Fortunately, Malala survived and went on to become a global spokesperson for education rights. Here in the West, we just assume it's everyone's right to go to school. But few in our culture stop to realize that if Jesus had never come into the world, that just wouldn't be the case. When Jesus was walking the earth, one day he was teaching his followers, and a person came to him and asked, "Teacher, what is the greatest of God's commandments?" To which Jesus replied, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind." Then, after rising from the dead, and just before returning to heaven, Jesus appeared to his disciples and gave them this command: "Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I've commanded you." You see, from the very beginning, Jesus' teachings left a deep impact among his followers to the importance of education, not only for learning the scriptures, but also for learning how to live well in God's world and how to use our minds for his glory. As a result, early Christian leaders like Ignatius of Antioch stressed the importance of teaching children. He said, "A righteous father educates his children well. Bring up your children in the training and instruction of the Lord, and teach them the Holy Scriptures and also trades, that they may not indulge in idleness." It was very early on then that Christians began setting up schools in obedience to Jesus' command to teach. One of the first schools was established by Mark, the writer of the second gospel. He began a school in the great city of Alexandria in Egypt. We also know that another early Christian leader named Justin Martyr started two well-known schools, one in Ephesus and the other in Rome. And shortly after that, a very famous school was started in Caesarea in Palestine, which taught not only Christian doctrine, but also mathematics, grammar, and even medicine. Now, setting up schools was nothing new. What was new, however, is that Christian schools were opened to teach everyone, young and old, rich and poor, boys and girls. In fact, one early convert to Christianity was a Greek man named Tatian, and he wrote a letter to his Greek friends in which he said, "We Christians admit all who desire to learn, including the poor. Even old women and children, and in short, persons of every age, are treated by us with respect." Well, this was a revolutionary idea, because in the Greek and Roman world, schools were almost exclusively for boys, and usually only the sons of the rich and ruling classes. By the 400s AD, Christians began building cathedrals as their centers for worship and learning, and as places where they could teach children not only Christian doctrine, but also grammar, speech, logic, arithmetic, music, geometry, and even astronomy. Unfortunately, these were soon populated almost exclusively by the children of wealthy families, so the church began opening schools in monasteries and convents so that children from poor families could get an education too. Christianity's greatest impact on advancing universal education, however, came in the 1500s through a movement known as the Protestant Reformation. Led by a German monk named Martin Luther, the Reformers held to the Bible's teaching that all Christians, not just a select few, were priests in service to God, and therefore everyone was responsible to know the Bible so that God could speak directly into their lives. Of course, this could not be possible unless everyone received a proper education. Consequently, Martin Luther became very outspoken about the importance of educating children. What's more, Luther became the first person to demand that civil authorities be responsible to ensure the education of children in their communities. He said, "I hold that it is the duty of the civil authorities to compel its subjects to keep their children in school. For the best and richest treasure of a city is that it may have pure, learned, intelligent, honest, well-educated citizens, for these can collect, preserve, and properly use whatever is good." This Christian commitment to education continued to flourish and shape the culture, extending even across the ocean with the settlers of North America. New immigrant communities were built around two central structures, the church and the school, as a means of preserving Christian faith at the center of both family and community life. Where I live in Canada, this commitment left its mark even on our public education until very recently. In fact, up till 1965, our Ministry of Education stated that the purpose of education is to prepare children to live in a democratic society which bases its way of life upon the Christian ideal. Unfortunately, while this priority on education remains, the influence of Jesus has been virtually erased. Today in our culture, education has become its own end, and no longer a means by which to teach children to know about God and His creation. As John Dewey, one of the most influential figures in modern education, said, "The educational process has no end beyond itself." But that's not how Jesus thought about education. For Jesus, training our minds according to all of God's truth is one of our greatest acts of worship, because by it we can learn to think true thoughts about God, who He is, why He's made us, and how it is we can come to know Him and please Him and live with Him forever.